Yeah, I follow Danny on Capitalcosm. I mean, your guys' styles and your shows are awesome. And we were just exchanging like people that were like talking about getting on, like Muckraker. Hopefully, I have Anthony, his brother Josh, coming on this weekend. They just did a documentary in Europe that's on Tucker Carlson's network, or the TCN or whatever it's called. Those two guys, they got balls of steel, man. I mean, they got kidnapped by the cartels on the beach in Texas, like held at like gunpoint. And then when they got let go, it was Ann Vandersteel and Michael Jan. I don't remember who else was in the communications with those guys, but they were let go. And then the first thing they did was found a Best Buy in Texas so they could rebuy all the equipment that they just lost so they could get right back out there in the field.
That's love of the game right there.
That to me, that's bigger than a passion project, I think.
I know. It's so great to see all these, this resurgence of what I would deem to be good journalism, like actually getting down there and getting an alternative perspective to the mainstream media.
But it's like a fine line, though, right? Because the propaganda works both ways. And you're seeing like these guys, for example, I don't see them hanging around at Mar-a-Lago. Like you see some of these journalists, the optics they're more interested in being at Mar-a-Lago than they are about being objective and getting information out to people.
Yeah. No, that's why. But even so, I think it's just important to get more perspectives. But to your point, yeah, you have to be aware of the propaganda. All sides are propagandizing you, and you just have to work with that reality in mind and try to sift through the signal. It was interesting. The BBC released that video of what's his name, Alex Predis, who was attacking the ICE vehicle 11 days before he was murdered or
shot murdered.
Depends
who you ask.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize the BBC the one that first put that out, because I saw Hannity commented on it.
Yeah, it came from the BBC. I think it was some independent journalist within the BBC wound up sharing it as well. So I thought that was interesting.
And he's like, fuck you, and kicking the tire of the car. And I mean, the thing with all that to me is like, I put this on my personal Facebook and I got killed for it. Right. And all I said was, you're a moron if you go to these things, period. Like, both sides. And people come back, they're like, Kyle Rittenhouse and J6. I go, I wouldn't go to any of that. Kyle Rittenhouse taking an AR-15 down to it. Nothing good is going to come from that. And he was a minor on top of it. And I'm sure if he had to do it all over again, he would have never have done that. Maybe I'm wrong, but because he had to go to court trial and the costs associated with it. Same thing with, the January 6th. I'm sure if they had to do it all over again, they would not have gone. And I know people are like, well, it's freedom, First Amendment. Okay, fine. But, I wouldn't do it. Would you?
No, certainly not. I think there's higher leverage ways to protest in the digital age. You can win the propaganda war on the internet. But then to that point, though, it is important to get boots on the ground, not in a protest style, but in a journalistic style, to unearth some of the things that are being hidden from us, like this Medicaid fraud. It seems to be rampant across the country.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it's just like the, when I had Mitch Vexler on, and he was talking about, he's a whistleblower on the housing fraud in Austin. You know about that.
I'm not aware of that.
Oh, you don't know? Oh, and another guy you should get on. Why don't I just be your producer here, Marty? So Mitch Vexler is, he was a whistleblower for the property values inflate. He's in a lawsuit right now. I don't know where the status of it is, but he, the municipalities, and I think it started in Austin or another town in Texas, basically inflating home values
for so they can taxes?
Yeah.
That doesn't shock me.
Which if it's happening in one, same thing with the Medicare fraud, right? It's happening everywhere.
Well, that's my big question, is like how much of our economy is fraud? Just like what percentage of GDP is enabled by overt fraud?
Well, I mean, you've had Ed Dowd on. I just had him on. How do you artificial? I mean, you bring people in, you give them money, government money, they spend it, it helps the economy, you boost the numbers,
You get a voting block
you get a voting block.
so that you can vote for more money to give to more immigrants to stimulate the economy, to get more votes. It's a vicious cycle.
How long can they keep this going for? That's the real question. It's like, so coming back to the properties here for a second, like, because I asked Mitch and Travis Spencer, they have a show called Real Estate Mindset. I think it's called Real Estate Mindset on YouTube. It's really good. And I said, just take a home, an average home. What is the true value of it? And they estimated 50% less of whatever the appraisal value is. Which I mean, when you can get away with fraud, you just keep going and going and going and going and going. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this before on your show, but I mean, it's been clear to me for many years now, but we are in the looting the treasury stage where I think everybody implicitly understands that the edifice of the federal government, the economy, the combination of the two, however you want to identify it, is not respecting the rule of law and morality, ethics, whatever you want to call it. And it's just a sort of mad dash to get your hands on as much money as possible by any means possible, while the getting's good in the looting stage.
well, we're living in a griftocracy, right? Like,
I haven't heard that one yet. I love that one.
a friend of mine said that to me. I was like, these are my two lines, man. We're living in a griftocracy, and this is not a superhero movie. And I find myself saying it on every single show. Like,
That's the first time I'm hearing it. I love that term. It's just true.
it's not even an actual word.
No, but no, it is, and I think this is again, my perspective on this. I think a lot of the griftocracy is seated in easy money, fiat currency, and whether it's Medicaid fraud, which is funded pretty heavily, obviously via taxation, but also debt expansion. Like that debt expansion is only enabled by the fact that the Fed has implicitly, or not even implicitly, explicitly stated since post 2008 that they will step in and buy bonds if need be. And so you have this money printer backing the United States debt, and that's what I think. If you break the money, we've been warned throughout history. Jesus, Socrates, Aristotle, Thomas Jefferson, many others. Don't mess up the money. We've completely corrupted the money at its core.
What did so who was the name of the guy again that you just interviewed about the Medicare fraud?
Steven Robinson. He's with the main wire. Actually, funnily enough, we crossed paths at Barstool Sports back in the day. We both worked there. He was there a little longer than I was, and he's since sort of left the Barstool sphere and really honed in on Maine local beat reporting. And for the last 2 years, he's been covering the fraud with Chinese marijuana grow ops in northern Maine. And then since last February, he's been covering the Medicaid fraud in Maine specifically, which is very similar to what we're seeing in Minnesota. You have a Somali immigrant community basically pillaging the Medicaid system within Maine. A lot of the money is actually not even, I mean, a lot of it obviously is stimulating the local economy, but a material portion of it is also being funneled out of the country to fund campaigns of Somali warlords as well. One of which, it was shocking. He was just on Sean Ryan too, and I think he told this story there as well. But you have this guy running for president of Jubaland, which is one of the areas in Somalia, and he's also an owner of an LLC in Maine that's receiving like $500,000 annual grants in Medicaid grants, which is like, what are we doing here? Like, how is somebody able to run for political office in Somali and own an American LLC and siphon off tax dollars from the Medicaid system? It's completely, it's objectively we were living in a clown world.
In Maine. And
Yes, I
Somalians
mean,
are in Maine.
yeah.
Didn't you, these people would say Somalians are stupid, but, I didn't see any of them out there in Minneapolis protesting. So apparently they're not that dumb.
No,
Not
I
as dumb
mean,
as,
well, it just highlights like the retardation of it all. It's like these people, they were just getting by on their grift and they were happy to do it. Now it's unearthed. Obviously, they're flailing out. You have Ilhan Omar and others hitting the press saying this is racist, whatever. And the Somalis in these localities aren't really hitting the streets. They're just hoping that they can continue the grift. And you have these. I think there's a combination of sort of color revolution, radical left insurgents really driving the confrontation in Minneapolis specifically. A combination of those sort of radical left wing offshoots of the Weather Underground from the 60s. And then you have just the useful idiots, the empathetic middle-aged white woman who feels the need to protect illegal immigrants, siphoning off tax dollars from the system fraudulently. And it's just complete chaos.
then you have people that just, they, they hate Trump so much.
It's insane.
But then you have the MAGA too. That's the opposite side of it. Like he can do no wrong. They can do no wrong. It's both sides. I mean, the propaganda works both ways. Like,
That's why it's like hard for somebody, at least for me, I'll speak for myself. Like I'm MAGA in the sense like that I do want to make America great again. I think we should reindustrialize the country. I think we should secure the border and really focus on rebuilding the middle class here in the United States. I think that's a wise economic policy, especially considering the sort of fraying of the social order that has been unleashed because of globalism and Triffin's dilemma. But to your point, I have these perspectives and I agree with a lot of Trump's policies, but there's others that just because I have that perspective, I'm not going to back. Obviously, I think one of the big topics is just like catering to Israel too much, meddling in foreign affairs, and I think that those are like things called balls and strikes. You have other things as well, like some of the even the cap on credit card rates. It's like it's like price fixing.
how do you do that though? I mean,
yeah.
how do you do that? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. So that's a great example of like, like listen, I'm with you on this stuff, but like price controls don't work. You're calling out Zoran Mamdani for ruining the New York real estate, or not yet, but trying to ruin the New York real estate market with his price fixing. And then here you go with credit cards, which are used by hundreds of millions of Americans. And you're trying to price fix the rate on that, which, listen, I know credit card rates are obscenely high, but that's in an attempt to sort of prevent you from going into too much debt. It's supposed to be sort of a risk metric you use to say, hey, like you can use this money, but if you do, you're gonna owe us a lot more back. So maybe you shouldn't spend it. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like to your point, like the propaganda, you have the polarized radicals on both sides, and we need more sensible people. Basically, calling, I hate the term, but it's the first one that came to head, calling balls and strikes on all these policies.
well, and so the Mamdani story is interesting to me because of one, everybody knew last year. Anybody that lived in New York knew and paid attention to it knew he was going to win. I mean, it wasn't even close. And this is where I think like the Republicans, they just don't get it. And maybe they don't want to get it. Maybe they like being in second place. And maybe they, it's a good life when you get up there. They put Cuomo and they tell New Yorkers, vote for Cuomo. You just don't fucking get it. And here's the other thing too. And like, not that I'm not some Mamdani praiser, like praising Mamdani, but I watched it when they were doing the debates. And they asked all the candidates, like, where were the first? Yeah. Maybe you and I talked about this last time. And he said, I'm not going to, everyone was like Israel. And he's like, I'm going to stay in New York. And then when his first day or first couple of days of taking office, he's on the subway talking to people, regular people. And it's like, this guy gets it.
Yeah. To our discussion about propaganda, I mean, he's a master, at least him and his social team are master propagandists. If you look at how they ran that campaign with TikTok and Instagram, they were A/B testing different videos. It was very high quality production. His campaign, social media videos, and I remember when I first saw it, I was like, "Holy crap! This guy has like very high quality production, like very good vibe, like the feeling that he
He's
gave
got the
off
charm. He's got that
while he was walking
retail.
through the city, and being
Yeah,
like, we're gonna bring rent control back and price fix everything." He's saying it in such a way that everybody's like, "Yeah, this sounds great. This is awesome." And I'm sitting there like, this is probably going to end in disaster. But the way he's presenting it is so perfect. I mean, to his credit and the credit of his team, like the way they waged that propaganda campaign when he was running for mayor was top notch.
but he's got that charm though too, right? Like he's got that likable
He's got that
retail,
theater boy. It's that theater boy charm. Like if you like,
the retail
it is
politics.
charming. But like if you have a bullshit meter, you're immediately able to see like, this is just some theater kid playing a role right now.
For sure, but people connected with that as you could see him out and about, and people like they just resonated from what I saw. And here's the other thing too, it's like Bill Ackman, where have you been? Like, oh, now all of a sudden this has been a problem. I didn't see you attacking De Blasio during the pandemic when De Blasio's doing these videos of French fries and hamburger and drinking a milkshake, saying if you want this, you got to get the jab. But Wall Street wasn't going after any of those people.
No, and I mean Bill Ackman famously was, I think, literally crying on CNBC in March or April of 2020, like begging the government and the Fed to bail out markets. Like I think he was literally crying in like one of those early interviews during COVID. So like calling for lockdowns and money printing, which is another form of socialism. It's just like there's again calling balls and strikes. It is funny how things begin to contradict themselves, and you get some hypocritic people out there.
Yeah, I mean, even with you speaking of Bill Ackman for a second, I mean, wasn't he the one Charlie Kirk? He summoned Charlie Kirk and his influencers to come visit him,
Yeah,
not too long before his death,
yeah, Montauk, a couple of weeks, I believe, before.
and he didn't
He
deny it. And it's like, well, what? Why are you? Why are you involved in it? Like, what?
I don't know. And it's all, how do we get through this? That's my question. It's like, it seems like, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, you mentioned City of London. And going back to like Trump's policies, like I do think many of them are moving the country and the economy in the right direction, despite the backlash that we're seeing from the radical left and in the media. And that's like for the policies that I think he's executing on well, despite all this friction. Like I just hope like people can see through the propaganda from the left side, particularly as it pertains to the immigration stuff, and we can actually implement some of these policies that are going to allow us to rebuild the middle class in America. And I think that's at risk right now, because people are very susceptible to the propaganda and the emotions being put out there.
So I haven't talked about this yet. Speaking to a friend of mine, some of the things he was saying to me, just it's made me look at things differently. Now, tomorrow could be, we could record this tomorrow, and I'd say something completely opposite because everything changes. Everything's changing so rapidly. But what Trump is doing in Venezuela, and it sounds at some point he's going to take Greenland. I don't see troops on the ground, but it sounds like it's inevitable. And here's the thing, like he's grabbing assets. And to me, it sounds like a good thing for the economy. So maybe there's something, we're bullish. It might be a good time to be bullish.
Yeah.
Look at the markets right now. I mean, it's a stock market. I mean, what it's done, and I maybe the sky's not going to fall, Marty, and maybe this, I mean, everything crashes at some point because that's just the nature of things.
Yeah. I mean, to your point about Venezuela and Greenland, I'm not going to pretend to I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what's going to happen with Greenland specifically, but with Venezuela, I mean, that's the other thing is like they're walking the walk in many regards. I'm sure you read it, but the National Strategic Strategy that was released last year, which basically planted the flag and say, hey, we're done with this globalist stuff. We're going to focus on the Western Hemisphere. We do want to do international trade with other countries, but we're going to focus on rebuilding the American economy, and we're going to fight for the American consumer and the American citizen via our economic policy and foreign trade. That does not preclude other countries from running with us. If we want to do trade, we'll come to fair trade agreements. But you have to understand, like, our perspective is like we're going to make sure that we put American citizens first, and then like this sort of focus on the Western Hemisphere is something I'm a big fan of as a millennial who witnessed the wars in the Middle East and 2 decades of foreign meddling by our military-industrial complex. I think packing it in and focusing on our locality makes a lot of sense and is advantageous for the American citizen. And on top of that, like reading into it and having some conversations with people like Tom Luongo, Susan Kakinda, and others, and understanding the encroachment of China and Russia in our hemisphere, particularly in Latin America, more particularly in Venezuela. Like it makes sense if you need to secure your locality, and I think Venezuela specifically will be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, it's still rather raw with the raid being just about a month ago, or less than a month ago, and we'll see what happens there. But I think strategically, if you're looking to secure geographic regions and the assets, whether they're rare earth minerals, precious metals, energy commodities, it makes a lot of sense. And I know people viscerally react negatively to these types of conflicts, but as an American citizen, thinking selfishly is like, hey, this is actually what I would prefer. I would not prefer to have China and Russia running Belt and Road initiatives in Venezuela, which is very close to the homeland, and exploiting those resources.
Yeah, I think where I would ask. I've never talked to Susan before. I mean, her videos are all over my feed on X. Like everything she's putting out is being shared. Accounts I don't even follow. I don't know if it's happening to you, but it's all over my feed. But I would ask them. First, I have a hard time believing it's for the regular citizen, because nothing is ever for the regular citizen. It just doesn't work that way. Like, it's one thing that I've come to conclusion in the short time I've been following this. The regular people, they always pay for the mistakes, and they never benefit from the gain. The trickle down, you get a little bit, right? But the whole idea of reindustrialization, I think, is a great thing, but that takes time.
Oh yeah,
Decades.
yeah, but you have to think about it too. Like you can't. I agree. The common man gets the short end of the stick most
Always.
times. But you have,
Always.
like the pendulum swing, the cyclicality of everything. We've gotten to such an extreme where I believe Trump and his administration recognize, like, if it goes further in the direction it has been going for many decades now, you're going to get to such a level of social incohesion that it doesn't, like, if you have power at the top, it's not going to matter. You're going to have a French Revolution on your hands. And at that point, like, what does it matter if you have the power? Like, you're going to live in a world of chaos, and your life's going to be a threat. So I think they have to appease the middle class, the sense like, all right, we're going to rebuild the economy. We're going to get it so you have a higher quality of life. We're not going to give you everything you may need, but we're going to give you enough to make sure that you're not hitting the streets.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting around that idea. Again, I mean, I think I think that the words of the reindustrialization and bringing manufacturing back, it's fantastic, but, and this is why I never thought they were serious about mass deportations, right? Because people's jobs, like some of these jobs, Americans just don't want to do. Now that has to change, but like I live in Phoenix. If ICE came through here, sweeping through, there's so much construction going on around me right now. These projects would all be frozen. Can't have that. Can't have can't have that.
Well, that's what I wonder is that because it reminds me of something like we've been told in regards to Medicaid and Medicare. It's like, hey, these are third rail, untouchable social welfare programs that we can never approach because it would completely put too many people out on the street. And we're coming to find that, well, wait a second, like this is like estimates of 50 to 70% of Medicaid specifically fraudulent, just overt fraudulent system. And so, like, we've learned in the last couple of months, like, hey, maybe that isn't a third rail. Maybe we've been taught to believe it's a third rail, untouchable, unapproachable sort of policy decision because the people in the know understand that it's completely fraudulent. And similarly to what you're saying about if you rip out all the immigrant construction workers, I can't have that because the economy will grind to a halt. Like I would question if that assumption is true too, because how many Americans are there sitting on the sidelines who would take those jobs but simply haven't been able to because they've been wage undercut by immigrants to come in and be like, yeah, I'll work for $10.
Possibly, but then also too with that, if they were to do it, like if they were really serious about it, housing would become so affordable.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. Moving back to my conversation with Steve Robinson, like the part of the Medicaid fraud enables. There's one particular program that has to do with, like, I think elder housing that's been exploited to scoop up a bunch of single and multifamily real estate properties in Maine, which have priced out the average Mainer. And so if you get rid of that fraud and get rid of the illegal immigrants exploiting that fraud, prices would come down naturally. And similarly with illegal immigrants that are taking houses in other parts of the country, I think bring more supply on the market, prices should come down.
But you can't do that, Marty, because then the boomers would pay the price.
I think the boomers can afford to pay the price, right? So what if they took a 40% haircut? Would that be the end all be all of everything?
Not for you and I, but for them. But that's I mean, Trump was commenting on that, I think, right? Like something in reference to the boomers and
another thing I could disagree with. Like, floated the 50-year mortgage, then the $200 billion mortgage bond buying program, in an attempt to bring down 30-year mortgage rates so that more supply could hit the market, but that supply is going to hit the market at higher prices because you have this inverse relationship between rates and the price of the real estate. And yeah, there's like this disconnect there on this particular subject with him as well. I did think the moratorium on institutions buying single family real estate properties that's one thing. I'm like, okay, this is like beginning to meander into centralized control of the economy, but that's like one area where it's like, yeah, like, is this actually beneficial to the average American to allow Blackstone and BlackRock to buy up all these, in Berkshire Hathaway to buy up all these single family real estate properties and turn them into rent farms?
I had Melody on talking about that, and she seems to think it's setting up for a bailout.
Why do you say that? Why does she say that?
Just because of putting that control down, that they can't buy the homes, that they're going to be looking for some type of.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Well, then I asked her. I said, "Well, everybody." And she's like, "Well, there'll be winners and losers." But I think Blackstone. I didn't verify this, but Blackstone's one of Trump's biggest donors, or is a huge donor.
So it's a workaround bailout. It's like, hey, we'll give you this. You just need to make sure that when we have to sell these properties for pennies on the dollar, you backfill it.
Basically, I think, yeah.
There's so much to pay attention to, keep up with these days. It's like, holy shit.
Well, and the farther down the rabbit hole you go with it, to me, I feel like it's the less I know.
Oh yeah. No, I have these moments. I've had one recently where it's like really. Sometimes at some points you just throw your hands up and be like, okay, I'm getting bamboozled by trying to follow all this stuff. Let me just focus on what I can actually control, like my business, recording podcast, getting revenue up, investing in Bitcoin companies, most importantly, making sure my family is comfortable. My children are on a good trajectory to become well-adapted adults. And I think it's important to take a step back and really remind yourself that the most impactful thing you can do is focus on what you can actually control and try to make that better.
But the problem with this, Marty, is because of what we do for a living, we have no choice, but we have to pay attention to this stuff all the time. Like we don't work at banks. Not that I would want that life. I mean, I actually worked at a bank at one point in my career. I would never want to go back to that 8 to 5 cubicle.
No.
Were you ever in that world?
I was out of college. I worked at a hedge fund. I started my junior year, summer going into senior year, and then I worked senior year and a year after, so I did like 2.5 years, and I was viscerally opposed to the cube life.
The Sunday blues, Sunday
Yeah.
evening blues, knowing.
Yeah, it was a great. I mean, with that said, like I loved the place I worked for. I loved the people I worked with, and it was an incredible opportunity to learn a lot about markets, particularly futures markets. We were a managed futures fund. So I learned a ton, got to meet a ton of successful, smart people, pick their brains. But the physical nature of sitting under fluorescent bulbs and pulling data from a Bloomberg machine into Excel and running VLOOKUPs was just like, I can't do this for the rest of my life.
Did you get a window? Did you have a window near you?
I will say the office was in a very nice warehouse building. There were large windows. I wasn't right next to one, but there was one in my view. So I was able to see the sun every once in a while.
I worked I worked for a company where they had a building, and from one side of the floor to the other there was a hallway, and in that hallway there were offices, and they were narrow, longer and narrow, and you'd sit there Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, and you had one day I think you worked from home, but there's no window.
That's not good for your psyche, for your psychology. I have got the sun coming in now. I got all my blinds up. You get full natural light in this room. I imagine you do too, by the looks of your background.
Yeah, I'm not freezing like you guys are right now. I'm in Arizona, man. I'm cold, and it's going to be like 70 degrees here today.
It's 10 degrees in Philadelphia today, which is when I was working at that fund, I was in Chicago, so I did 5 Chicago winters. So this is not anything I haven't seen before. I've learned to deal with the cold, live with it, embrace it.
Austin got hammered too. Didn't Austin?
Yeah. Yeah, there's an interesting Bitcoin story there too. I was writing about a couple of weeks ago. It's funny how the weather affects Bitcoin these days via the mining industry.
Share it. Share the story.
Well, there is a very strong case to be made that without Bitcoin, the expansion of Bitcoin mining operations within ERCOT specifically and in the TVA as well, over the last 5 years since the Chinese mining ban, the grids would not be as stable as they were, and they have been, and continue to be, throughout this winter storm. If you recall, in 21, I think it was Winter Storm Uri, obviously took down the grid, parts of the grid. In Texas, you had people in Austin and Houston, Dallas without power for days. A couple of deaths came from that. People sleeping in their cars in their garages, and the grid was not ready for that winter storm. But since 2021, I think ERCOT's added something like 40 gigawatts of capacity and generation, and added interconnects and all of that. And Bitcoin mining has expanded. I think it's about 1 to 2.5 gigawatts, or 4 to 6 gigawatts of overall power generation in Texas is dedicated to Bitcoin mining. And Bitcoin mining acts as a load balancer. And so when demand spikes on the grid, like it has this week, last week, people turning on their heaters and their electricity to stay warm, Bitcoin miners simply turn off. And so you have 4 to 6 gigawatts of electricity that was being used by mining within the span. I don't know if it all went off at once, but theoretically within a couple of minutes, all those miners can spin down and you open up 4 to 6 gigawatts of electricity capacity to be delivered to the grid so that people can keep their lights on. And so this time around, I saw Governor Abbott was on Fox News earlier this week because people were worried about the grid after what happened in 2021 with that winter storm. And he was happy to report that Texas is doing just fine because of the expansion of generation capacity. He didn't mention Bitcoin mining, but that's playing a big role down there and ensuring that there's sufficient supply of electricity. And similar things are happening in Tennessee. I mean, I could say for certain being involved with the mining operation on grid in Tennessee that we've been asked to turn down our machines so that there's more capacity available for residential consumers as demand spikes. So there's a Bitcoin story here, and you can see it. It's actually cool. There's many people fudding it right now, thinking that Bitcoin miners are turning off their equipment because they're worried about quantum, or they're diversifying into AI GPU compute. But it's the weather, and so hash rate's fallen. If I look here, since January 23rd, so about a week ago, it was at 985 exahash. Right now it's at 771. So we had 210, about 20% of the network has come off over the last week, responding to demand in Texas and Tennessee. In understanding the geographic distribution of hash rate, that makes sense. A lot of that hash rate moved to Texas in 2021 and the Tennessee Valley Authority. So Bitcoin mining is helping make sure the lights stay on in Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, all those areas.
So it's expanded the supply then. Was this an unforeseen benefit that nobody saw coming?
Not that nobody saw coming, but I mean, there were like, I think Hal Finney wrote about it. I think Satoshi may have even, once he realized that, oh, wow, this is not going to stay on CPUs, people are going to be incentivized to create specialized hardware to mine Bitcoin. You know, you just extrapolate that forward. It's like, okay, we'll get to like very high power compute, which means we're going to need a lot of energy. And for over a decade, people have been saying, okay, this is going to play out by Bitcoin miner. Like if high power compute is necessary to mine Bitcoin, the incentive is going to be to find the cheapest electricity anywhere that's typically wasted or stranded. And they'll go find that. And then once they find that, you'll be able to monetize those assets, which will create revenue for the owners of those assets, which will then enable them to reinvest and expand. And so, I mean, it's not the sole contributor to great expansion, but I think it plays a major part these days.
And we were talking right before offline, right before we were recording, talking about markets and metals and Bitcoin. And what's it down over 5% today?
It is down 5.5%, 5.5%.
So if people that like, you know how many young people that I meet that are like, just, they love Bitcoin, man. Love it. I can't imagine the amount of people you come across. I'm talking like, I mean, a guy I was talking to who was around my age had a son who was probably 13, 14, and he created a fake account, like with play money. Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, it's like my 5-year-old. Tuttle twins. Shout out to any of the parents out there who are free market believers in the free market, and not indoctrinating your kid with Marxist propaganda. Tuttle twins. Incredible cartoon that I feel comfortable recommending to others out there. They have 3 Bitcoin episodes, and my oldest loves those episodes, and like, he knows what hard money is now, and he understands what Bitcoin is. He has a Bitcoin wallet. He does chores and gets paid in Bitcoin. And to your point about the young people love it. It's funny. I gave a Bitcoin 101 lecture at a local high school last week. And that was one of the questions the student asked, is like, why isn't Bitcoin more popular? And I was like, because you guys don't have money yet. You're not in the job force yet, because once you are, you're going to be posed with, or you're going to have the decision: do I want to go to a bank teller and set up a bank account, and get my license, my social security and all that, or do I want to download a piece of software and just have a quote unquote bank account that I can immediately begin receiving and sending money from? And I think the question, or the answer to that question, is there's a very strong argument to be made that they're going to choose the latter. Like, let me just download this app and receive money, not have to put in any information.
What was this the first time you spoke at this type of event at high school?
No, I've actually been doing this. When I was in New York, met Odell, my co-host for Rabbit Hole Recap and partner at 1031. We would go to Baruch College once a semester. They had a blockchain class there, and give our Bitcoin 101 lecture and Q&A session. That was fun. We started that in like 2018, 2019. So we did that like 5 or 6 times. And then this high school that I spoke at last week, this is actually the 3rd time I've done it. First two were remote when I was in Austin, but I know the teacher there runs their investment club, and so he asked me a few years ago to give a virtual Bitcoin 101 lesson. So I've done that once a year since then. So this is the first time I did it in person. But yeah, the youth is all right, I would say. At least the ones that I've interacted with. Some of them, many of them. They're asking good questions. They're attentive, and that's one of the coolest things of doing these lectures, whether it's at a college or a high school. It's very engaging. Like the subject of Bitcoin, obviously don't participate in the other guest lectures, but the feedback from the teacher who's invited me to do this is always like this is their favorite one. So it's cool to see.
What were some of the questions that they ask you, and like how many kids were there?
There's probably like 70 kids in the room. I would imagine 70, between 60 and 70.
I mean, not 10. I mean, that's a big group.
Yeah, and it's just a relatively small private school too. Questions they asked, good ones. Like the first question was about quantum. What is the quantum risk of Bitcoin? The other was the one I mentioned earlier. Like, why hasn't Bitcoin been adopted? Like, what happens if we go to Bitcoin Center? It was really so. My Bitcoin 101 lectures, 80% of it is money, a money lecture. Like, what is money? You're not going to be taught what money is by anybody else. So here are some examples of monetary systems throughout history and why I believe, and I think empirically throughout history, time and data has proven that hard money systems are better for the common man. And so we go through like the debasement of the Roman denarius, the debasement of West African glass beads, the debasement of island of Yap rye stones, and then ultimately explain why the gold standard has always been the monetary standard that society falls back on because it's the most sound, and then walk through the progression of the degradation of the gold standard in the United States and the transition to pure fiat, and point out the monetary base chart, the national debt chart, inflation charts. WTF happened in 1971, basically highlight like, hey, all these negative externalities we've seen in the economy over the last 5 decades, I believe, and I believe it to be true, is because we messed up the money. And when you mess up the money and you have central authorities that can pull monetary levers on a whim, it's going to distort pricing signals and therefore perturb capital allocation and lead to massive malinvestment and dislocations in the economy. And then we get to Bitcoin. And this is what Bitcoin fixes.
And they're engaged, and I mean, I would think that what an incredible experience for them.
Yeah, locked in. At least I think they were. I don't know if there's a no phone policy, but I didn't see anybody on their phone when I was giving a lecture.
I have more optimism for, well, I mean, I don't mean a lot of young girls, but the younger guys that I've come across, and what because I'm always now curious of like, what do you want to do? It's the Matt Smith, I don't know if the book, The Preparation, Be, Do, Have. That's what he asked his son. Mm-hmm. What do you want to be? That's the first question. What kind of man do you want to become? What do you need to do in order to get that, to become that? And then the haves will come along with it. So now I find myself when I'm talking to somebody who's like 17 or 18, if I'm like out in the run in the desert or whatever, and what do you want to be? Like I met this guy, he's going to go to ASU. He doesn't want to go, but his parents are making him go live in the dorm. But all he wants to do is work on engines, like build engines and like do something in the automotive from a mechanical engineering standpoint. And he's like, hey, I want to just go to school, but I also want to just continue to work in the garage in my parents' house and like work on these engines. And I'm like, man, I had no kind of drive like that when I was 18. Like all I wanted to do was drink alcohol and be out all the time. Like,
sounds like he could be the next Palmer Luckey. I don't think he went to college. And that's exactly what he did. Just tinker with things in his garage.
But like that was an example of somebody who they know what they want to do. I mean, everybody thinks they know what they want to do at that age, and he thinks life is in a straight line. But he had an idea professionally of what he wanted to do and wanted to pursue it and just go, chase it. I don't know if that's the same with young women. And my friend Matt is actually going to write a second book in relation to, because he has a daughter. I don't know what it's going to be called or anything, but something similar from like The Preparation, what he wrote for his son. It's a really good read, actually.
Yeah. No, if there are any young ones listening out there, or any parents of young ones, or teenagers, late teenagers, about to enter adulthood to college, I don't think it's awesome for the kid you ran into that he knows what he wants to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do until I found Bitcoin. So I was 22, like I was saying, I was working at that hedge fund. I found Bitcoin, and I was like, oh, wow, this is it. And then from 22 to 26, I sort of maniacally researched Bitcoin, took shitty jobs, wound up quitting a job, thinking I was going to get another one in 2 weeks, and was unemployed for 18 months and between 2015 and 2016. But stayed on my passion. That was Bitcoin. And ultimately, when the price started running in 2017, friends, family, people that knew me as the Bitcoin guy, texting, emailing, I was like, all right, this is overwhelming. I'll start a newsletter to teach you a little bit about Bitcoin. It'll be one to many, not many to one. And it was just like a natural, like, all right, these people have a problem. I can solve it. So I'll solve it for them, share it on Twitter, and lo and behold, 9 years later on this, which is hard to believe, I have a media company. Didn't intend to start one, but really knew I wanted to work in Bitcoin. And that was how I got my feet wet.
Yeah, and now, how are you handling when people? I mean, I can't imagine the amount of people that contact you on a daily basis. But since the drop from 125,000 to whatever it is today, I don't know, what is it, 88 or something, 86.
Yeah, well, lucky.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, luckily for me, I've been around the block for 13 years now, so this is not the first major drop. I've weathered these storms, and not only myself, but with others who are going through maybe their first storm. And so it's always the same. It's like step back, recognize the fundamentals. Going back to what I was saying earlier, the money's broken, and Bitcoin provides a digitally native solution to that. It's a distributed system. Nobody can control it. Only ever going to be 21 million. You can verify it for yourself. And that has not changed at all. The price obviously has changed since the end of October, but that's a temporary blip. Zoom out on the chart, put it on a log scale, and it looks like nothing happened.
What did you say right before we started? Right before we started, I said the people that have gone all in, right, and they bought at the top, they're just getting killed right now. What was your line?
This is part of your initiation ritual. This is what Bitcoin does to you. I ate my first bonus check into Bitcoin at $1,300, and then I watched it fall down to $180 over the course of the next 2 years. So I've been there before. But yeah, that was actually one of the questions at the local high school last week. It's like, all right, like, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Like, how much money should I put in? It's like, hey, take a step back, particularly for people of your age, you're 17, 18. You work a job, take 10%, 20%, whatever you're comfortable with of your paycheck, and just buy Bitcoin every paycheck, and buy it with the knowledge that if you do buy it, don't plan to touch it for 4 to 5 years. So if you bought at 125 and you're looking at $84,778 of Bitcoin right now, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Like, you got to have a long-term perspective on this. It's in the monetization phase, and there will be volatility along the way.
Did you get the sense that the people that were talking to you, they all want to be Jordan Belfort from Wolf of Wall Street?
It's actually, no, not Jordan. It was actually, I mean, again, this is all guys, private school, elite, if you will, elitist, not elitist, but elite, like very good. It's actually funny. It's my alma mater's rival. I need to go speak at my alma mater as well. But no, they were very like one of the kids came up to me and was like, "Hey, I've been building this model portfolio trading engine for the last 6 months." Like, and he emailed me. And I was like, "Holy shit, this is incredibly impressive." So it's not like DGen, Steve Madden. We're going to take Madden public and rip the pink sheet profits. It's like, no, let's actually do this the right way and explore this stuff. Yeah. It's pretty sophisticated.
I didn't mean it like that. I meant more so like make $1 million a day, swing for the fences, put it all in, go all in right out of the gate.
A lot of Gen Z is like that. If you look at like what's happening on Polymarket and Pumped.Fun.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, I think that's Just a sign of the times. Again, like if you read When Money Dies, I mean, this is what was happening in Weimar too. You had the paper boy betting on stocks, thinking he was rich, and we're seeing the cohort that would be analogous to the paper boy back in those days doing something very similar.
Yeah, I had Vince Lancy on a couple days ago, and we were talking about the future of Las Vegas. And I mean, you know Vince.
I'm gonna have him on Monday.
Oh, you
Look
are?
at
Oh,
us.
yeah.
Yeah. I was just texting him right before I hopped on here.
Oh, you were? Oh, you were?
Yeah.
We were. You two together on a show would be great, man.
Yeah. Well,
That'd be a fun conversation.
funnily enough, he said it on my show, so I feel comfortable saying that we went to the same high school. Obviously not at the same time, but we went to the same high school.
Well, you got to ask him about what he was doing as a young man. We spent the first 20 minutes talking about that the other day. Like, do you know like his backstory, what he was doing or anything?
I know he's a South Philly guy, so I can imagine.
Oh yeah, like he was bookie. So we were talking about gambling and like
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, I go, man, today's world, and this is what I thought was interesting what he said, not to say it's going to happen, but just something to think about. Like, because Vegas is, economically, they're struggling. And because it's so expensive, like young people, they don't need to go to Vegas. They can do it all online. And then most of these cities, big cities, have casinos if they really want to go do table games. Sports betting's all done to your phone. You can bet on political. I think you can, Melody, I think, said you can bet on real estate.
Yeah. You can bet on anything on these prediction markets.
Do you have an account? I've never like logged into one of these things to look at it.
I didn't. I was trying to play it by the book with Polymarket. I didn't spend up a Kalshi, but Polymarket, I think they're just sort of rolling out to U.S. citizens. I think they're geofenced the U.S. until they're waiting for like regulatory approval from the CFTC. So I think that's starting to roll out. I'm going to dabble in it, but I'm not like a big gambler.
No, but just to look at it though. I mean, I just wanted to get on the app and just see what it looks like.
Oh well, I actually I do have. They have like a pretty robust API, and so I've been playing around with these AI tools. I spun up a little AI employee, and he has access to the Polymarket API, and so I do have like a daily debrief on what are like the markets with highest volume, what are markets with like the weirdest odds that are probably mispriced. And it's interesting when you can get a perspective on.
Well, and Vince was talking about how, like with Vegas, he goes, I can envision a decoupling between the hotels and the casinos, but also tying back into, we use the example DraftKings, but you could see how some of these apps, they might just buy the hotels themselves. Because now it's the median, right? Like how fast can I get it?
Yeah, I mean, we saw that with ultimately fell through, but like Penn Gaming when they bought Barstool, and then they spun up like those physical Barstool bar locations, and that was the strategy there. It's like they need distribution. Well, the hotels need distribution. I think outside of MGM, none of them really have robust apps, and so you could see like this inversion where you have DraftKings, FanDuel, whoever, maybe the prediction markets, maybe at some point they have a lot of volume, ton of size and distribution. And it's like, okay, let's make what was once old new again and go buy these physical locations.
And they want to be bougie, right? And trend, DraftKings win.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, like you can offer, like, and then, yeah, then you can, we're playing through this, you can offer, like, if you're a DraftKings user, you get a 20% discount on a room here. If you're a FanDuel, you're paying full price. So you can see those dynamics entering the market as well.
Well, and Melody was saying, when I talked to her, was the movie The Hangover a precursor for like a dying Las Vegas? I never thought of it until she said that. I was like, oh, maybe.
Well, the movie was a top signal for Vegas.
Possibly. I don't think that was the intention when they made it, but
yeah. I've only been to Vegas once, and it was last year, and it was because I was forced to go for the Bitcoin conference, and I'll be there again this year for the Bitcoin conference. But it's the only time I've ever been. I'm not like a massive gambler. I did play some blackjack while I was there, but it's for my personality, my modus operandi. It's way too stimulating for me.
Well, and what they charge you too, because they know once they get you into the hotel that you got nowhere to go. You're not going to go to the grocery store in the suburbs for a bottle of water. I mean, my family lives there, and you want to drive to go down from the suburbs to a hotel, they'll hit you up for $40 to park.
Yeah. That was like we were at where was it? I forget where the conference was. The Venetian, and that was like the again. I've heard of Vega. I've never been to a bachelor party, but I've heard of people going bachelorette parties and all that. And like, oh, it's so much fun. And I'm like, oh, well, I wonder what it's like. Then you got to the conferences at the Venetian, stayed there, and like literally didn't leave, and it felt like it was like 5 square miles below the earth, just walking through that casino in that hotel.
And everything is centered around walking. You got to go through the casino to get to wherever it is you need to go.
Yeah,
Always have to get through walk through the casino.
Yeah, the psychological manipulation of like it's a maze, so it's you get discombobulated and you're just like give up. Like, okay, I'll sit down at this blackjack table. They pump it full of oxygen so you can stay up late, and it's a very interesting business model.
You wonder where that'll be in 10 years, 15 years. Because of what we just talked about with the ability to just do it so quickly. And also, I was thinking about this after Vince and I recorded. Here's another example: Netflix, right? I mean, Netflix is on the brink. I don't know if it's done yet, but they're on the brink of buying Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So the streaming is now becoming, it's flipped.
And I was actually having a conversation with a friend last night, and I mean, things are moving so fast now, particularly with these AI tools. Like, we could have a situation where Netflix buys Warner Brothers, and it turns out to be like an epically bad move because these tools, particularly the self-hosted AI tools, are getting so robust, and the hardware is getting so stable and beefy enough that like you can easily host a bunch like BitTorrent could be made great again via these AI tools, particularly if you're using them in the right way. And so I would not be shocked if somebody with vibe codes like a Netflix competitor is like jailbroken and you just undercut their price, and you have access to everything you could ever want on Netflix, but it's available via some other application that somebody vibe coded and has secured on hardware that's hard to find.
So what do you like, a Napster type of thing where they're just pirating the library of Netflix?
Yeah, yeah. It's getting insane. Like I said, I don't know if you've been playing with the tools. I know we talked about the last time I was on, but even since
I'm not
the last
embracing
time I
the
was on,
technology, Marty, like I should be.
it's insane, man. I mean, it is like a double-edged sword, and I'm happy to report that the open source models and the applications to use those open source models in a private way is progressing just as fast as the frontier models. And so, like, we invested in a company at 1031 called Maple AI, and they basically have trusted execution environments. And so you can put the open source models like Kimi K2.5 was just released earlier this week, and it's more performant than Claude Opus 4.5 at a number of tasks. So they haven't implemented Kimi K2.5 yet at Maple, but they will. And the way they've set it up is everything operates in the secure enclave on your device, so my laptop or my phone. Then it communicates with a GPU in the cloud, but it goes directly to the secure enclave in that GPU. And then the logic of the LLM lives in that secure enclave. And so you use private keys to send an input to the cloud, and then it gets the compute gets done there, and then you use your private key to send the output back to you. And so even the servers in the cloud, like, nobody knows exactly what's happening on that model. Point being is that you can do these things very privately if you do it the right way, which is good. I think you can protect yourself from leaking things to OpenAI and other things. Like, I just built one of those Claudebot things. I'm not sure if you've seen. It's become very popular in the last few weeks. It's basically like a harness on these models that has really good context memory. So it's very powerful. It can do a bunch of things. And I've been playing with it since Sunday, and I have it running a bunch of processes for us at TFTC, doing research for me at 1031, and I'm using these open source models via Maple's API, and it's all private. So it's getting really cool right now.
And that's where it's at now. So imagine 5-10 years, how much more is this thing going to evolve?
I mean, I remember like 2 months ago when Claude Code, like they had it on the desktop app. I was like, holy crap, this was incredible. Less than a month ago, I think they released Claude Cowork. I was using that, and I was using those because the UX was better. And then Claude bot. I think it's been around for like 3 months or something like that, and got really popular within the last 2 weeks. And I was like, all right, let me try this. And I downloaded, set up that instance. I was like, holy crap, this is a step function improvement from what Claude just released. And we're getting close to, I think, AGI. Like I'm able to basically communicate with my AI employee slave via Signal and just have it do things. Like I've been laying in bed at night, like, all right, what do I need to get done? Like, go do this, and just goes off and does it.
Have you come across many mistakes?
No, they're getting better. Like the hallucinations going down. There's some there's some things where it needs better direction. It really comes down to how you prompt it, but the hallucination rate, at least from what I'm witnessing, is going down dramatically. And again, with this harness too, like we give it very specific context. Like a lot of what I'm doing is like, hey, here's access to our YouTube API. I need to make a deck to send to an advertiser. Use the YouTube API to pull all the data. You have information. We've given you files that describe our podcast. You have access to our RSS feed over the internet, like dissect what we do and do some user research via the Twitter API about how people think about our brand and put together a deck. And it did it in 2 minutes. And it was perfect.
What does that cost you a month for that service? Is it free to create that?
$200 all in with everything.
A month.
Yeah. It's insane.
But just the amount of time that saved you, just that one task, it paid for
I
itself.
feel like this week feels like the week in 2013 when I finally got Bitcoin. Like I stayed up all night researching, like, holy crap, shaking people. Like, this is it. Like I haven't had that feeling in over a decade. And since we had the snow day here in Philly on Sunday, I was like, all right, boys are watching a movie. I'm going to play around, spin up a new tool, and got it going. And at first I was like, okay, this is cool. But then I saw how other people were using it, began implementing that. And I've been Monday I was up till 3 a.m. Tuesday I was up till 3 a.m. Last night I was up till 1:30 just messing with it. So it can do so much.
What are your so what are your thoughts then on, I know I'm kind of running out of time here with you, what's happening in the precious metals then with all this?
Yeah. Something's got to be going on, right? Like I've had Josh Fair on. Obviously, we were mentioning you had Vince on. I was texting him this morning, reading his gold fix. I think he's been very on point with his analysis over many years, but I think over the last 6 to 12 months, really highlighting the gold on warrant at the Shanghai exchange and basically saying, hey, this is a big signal that something's going on here. It looks like China wants to diversify away from the dollar-backed system towards a gold-backed system that they have more control over. And it seems like that's coming true. I mean, Josh Fair, have you had him on before?
No, he's somebody I'd love to have. But I'd love to talk to. But he lives in Wyoming though, right?
Yeah, moved the operations to Wyoming. There's an economic opportunity zone there, so it made more sense to ship the mint up there from a tax perspective. But yeah, I mean, he's in the physical market of both gold and silver. And so it was my second conversation with him was last week, the first one being this time last year. And yeah, I mean, his perspective being in the middle of these physical flows is, yeah, China's buying indiscriminately. JP Morgan has sort of recognized what's going on and sort of said, hey, we're not going to be selling. We're not short any of these things anymore. And we're going to try and prevent or not prevent, but limit the partners with which we deal this physical gold and silver out to. Yeah, it seems like the monetary reordering is upon us. How fast or slow it happens from here, I think, is yet to be determined. But just looking at the charts over the last few days, I mean, I was talking to somebody on the phone about silver, and I had TradingView up yesterday, and I was just like zooming out in the chart. It looked like if you zoom out like 2 years, it's like a legitimate parabola, which isn't like, part of me is like, okay, things can't go up forever. Like this has to come crashing down. Obviously, it's corrected today a bit, but The other part of me is like, oh, is this the big one we've all been talking about for my whole career? Is it happening right now? Um, I could see both scenarios playing out. We just have this is a blow off top. We'll go back to business as usual, but we recede from here, let it sort of consolidate and settle somewhere that was higher than the last settlement place, or it could be the big one. We just have this sort of rapid transition to a hard money or a different monetary system.
Have you talked to Eric Jung yet?
I've not. No.
Yeah, I'm talking to him tomorrow. King Kong 88 is his handle on X.
Yeah. I love his Twitter account.
Yeah, I do too. He said that this is only the second inning. I'm going to ask him, what that means exactly tomorrow. But here's the thing about silver to me, and I'm not an expert in any of this, right? I just bring people on like yourself and others to explain things to me like I'm 5 years old. But silver was $30 an ounce in April. It was $50 an ounce Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
Yesterday it was 119 or 118 or something. I know it went down. It took a little bit of a hit today, but that's insane.
Again, parabola growth. It is, and then it does signal that something's, to me at least, that something's going on behind the scenes. And through my conversations with people like Vince and Josh and others in the metal space, like that are actually close to the flows of the physical. I think that's the most important. That's like what I told Josh when he came on. I was like, I bring you on because you see the physical flows, and I think the physical flows in these precious metal markets are probably the most important. They're going to give you the most signal about what's actually happening. And he said he's never seen anything like this in his life, so could be the big one.
Well, the other thing is too is between separating silver from gold for a second. Silver, it's used in things, right? Like it's utilized for it's classified as a rare earth. Gold is not, right? I mean, gold is, what is the purpose of gold, right? So you buy your wife something, walks around. The more you buy her, right? The more you buy her, the more alpha you look like, right? You're like the big shot in the neighborhood. Somebody passes away and there's no one to pass on this jewelry to. You melt it down? You put it in teeth, right? People have gold teeth. So you're seeing this spike up in gold. Like, what is that? What is that flashing, right? Like the currencies, people are losing faith in the currencies in the system. It sounds like to me, because you can't do anything with gold. Like, you have bars of gold. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, you're going to use it as a reserve asset. I mean, central banks, I think that's where the signal is. They still hold large amounts of gold outside of the UK and Canada, which idiotically sold all theirs. Terrible prices. But, no, yeah, this is something, Bitcoiners and a lot of the folk on my show over the last 9 years has been, hey, there's going to be a transition out of this dollar-based reserve system towards what I believe the market will fall in a sound money system. And I think ultimately, over time, may not happen immediately. I think that sound monetary system, the people the market chooses will be Bitcoin, just because it has superior properties to gold. And it's happening. This is it is shocking. Like, you talk about it, you understand, you do the research, you look at the monetary base expansion globally, you look at the debt expansion globally, and you go like, yeah, this can't persist forever. Something's going to break at some point in the future, and it could be breaking right now. And as it's breaking, if it is breaking, it's like still shocking. It's like, holy crap, this is insane.
Well, and the other thing too, how long does it, what the timeline of this, like how long? Because things, you always think things are like, the sky's going to fall tomorrow. And yet it takes, I said this, I had Gilbert Doctorow on yesterday, and I brought this line up that somebody shared with me. I think it's hilarious. You have people that have predicted 10 of the last 3 market crashes.
Right.
Like,
Peter Schiff, others.
It's always, the sky's always going to fall. Always.
Yeah. And that's and then you have to worry about the sky is falling conundrum, but then also the boy who cried wolf. Like, the boy ultimately got eaten by the wolf. Like, push came to shove, reality set in at some point. It's like, is that where we are now? Where we've been crying wolf for over a decade, since 2008, some better part of 2 decades now at this point. And people are like, whatever, you've been saying this for 2 decades. And like, now the wolf's actually coming to eat the boy. It's like,
Well, we were talking about in relation to EU and NATO, and because he's a historian and specializes in, Russia, Ukraine is really his specialty right now, like talking a lot about that. And I said to him, pending, because it seems like they're working towards a resolution, and I said, could this be the end of the EU? And he goes, potentially. He goes, but my experience professionally when I worked at ITT, I thought at some point this is going to end, but it took 8 years. Like these things just don't. So is the EU going to end tomorrow? No. Is NATO going to end tomorrow? No.
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 And that's the thing. Like I think ultimately fiat currency, the EU, NATO will dissolve. But that's been these things happen with a whimper, not really a bang, in most instances throughout history. Like again, going back to the fall of the Roman Republic, it's marked as what 464 AD is when it officially fell, but it wasn't like there was a big event. There was a slow decline over the course of centuries, and in posterity, people look back. It's like, yeah, by 464, the Roman Empire was not an empire anymore. It is over at this point. Could play out similarly here. And that's the other thing too. You can't get bogged down in the doomerism, like I was saying with the AI. Like there's incredible opportunity right now too. Chaos is a ladder. The tools to, if you have agency, the tools to actually do things in the world have never been stronger and more accessible. And while there are many problems in the fiat monetary system, in the geopolitical landscape of the world right now, and it is frightening, can be frightening if you're just becoming aware of it. But I think you also have to be aware of the good things that are happening that you have access to, and just going back to what I said earlier, control what you can control and take advantage of the chaos while it persists.
Well, and people come through these things ahead. It does happen.
Yeah. And it's necessary. Like these systems need to be reset, not like in the Davos World Economic Forum Great Reset, not in that sort of connotation, but like we literally just need to clear the market of all the grift and waste, capital misallocation that exists. We need to let it happen. That's, I think, why things are as crazy as they are right now, is because we've sort of band-aided over systemic problems, particularly post 2008, time and time again. And you can only do that so many times before reality sets in and gravity takes control. We could be witnessing that right now. And it's obviously going to be volatile, and it's going to be detrimental to many individuals out there, but it's a necessary market clearing mechanism that we haven't allowed to happen, and it needs to happen at some point, so that we can actually rebuild from sounder foundations.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to get rid of the grift, man. You'll never get rid of the grift, and you'll never get rid of the corruption, because whoever the puppeteers are, they're always going to, I mean, it's just the way it works, right? Through history. That's why I don't buy into the whole giving it back to the people. It sounds like the movie Gladiator. Like,
I don't know. I'll give this the devil's advocate perspective on this. It's like, did you read The Sovereign Individual?
No.
You gotta read
that. At it.
Like, we live in the age of the sovereign individual. Access to asymmetric technology has never been more accessible, and so I think we are transitioning into this period where the individual has, I mean, the way they describe it in the book was written in the mid-90s. David Rees-Moggs and Davidson was his co-author. They predicted all this in the 90s. They predicted Trump. They predicted Bitcoin. They predicted drone warfare. They predicted AI. And basically the core thesis of their book is like, hey, we're with the internet age, we're transitioning to the digital age. And in the digital age, a lot of the focus was on cryptography specifically. Like, once you have weapons grade cryptography in the hands of anybody, can just download weapons grade cryptography from an open source library. I didn't describe it as an open source library at the time, but this is essentially what they were describing. You have, again, military grade technology that was solely in the hands of governments for the longest time. Anybody has access to it, and that changes the dynamic, the power dynamic, because you get asymmetric leverage as an individual. And so we have that in tools, accessible AI tools that exist. Bitcoin is one of those asymmetric tools built on cryptography. You can be your own bank, secure your own money, not have to operate in the system. That gives you incredible leverage against these puppeteers, as you were describing them. And that leverage is only going to increase and shift in favor of the individual as everything progresses. And it's not to say that it's some utopia. Some of the it's like, do we get the utopia or do we get like the cyberpunk sort of like snow crash type world, which I think is yet to be determined.
I don't know what's a snow crash. I don't know what's a snow crash world.
I mean, Snow Crash was is a sci-fi futuristic cyberpunk novel, basically describing it basically describes the age of the sovereign individual, but I don't know, it's like dystopian. It's more like chaotic, anarchic. It's like an anarchic cyberpunk future with like tinges of fascism. The individual versus like the controlling government. The individual has a lot of power in that world, but it is chaotic and anarchic to an extent.
Yeah, do you notice too how like we're coming back around like with the midterms and people like the circulating? Are we going to have a midterm just like 24? Are we going to have an election? Are we going to have?
And it's like I'm throwing my hands up right now because it feels like we live in a simulation because like you have all this unrest in Minneapolis leading up to a very important election. And I did a talking head video about this recorded last night, published this morning, but I was like, and I did not want to make this because my brand is like, I focus on Bitcoin and macro and people hate when I get political. But I felt compelled to make this video last night because like, I feel like I'm back in May of 2020 where you had Black Lives Matter and
Chaz.
The media was manipulating people. Chaz, yeah, all this. It's like literally the same exact playbook. It's like how they're not even creative with it. It's like they're literally in the same city doing the same exact thing with the same setup, same president. It does feel like we're living in a simulation. It's insane. It's like, and it's like what I said in the video, like, listen, I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this. Obviously people are very emotional about, the deaths of, that woman and that man who were trying to prevent ICE agents from, removing illegal immigrants from Minneapolis. But again, it reminds me of like George Floyd, the riots, the logical inconsistency back in that era was like literally 2 days before George Floyd, it was like put on your mask, 6 feet distancing. And then as soon as people decided to hit the streets, it was like rioting's fun, burn down the city. You're fine. Don't worry about the mask. Don't worry about COVID. It's temporarily suspended while you destroy cities across the country. And likewise today, it's like ICE is all of a sudden bad. You have like Tom Homan in 2012 getting a medal from Barack Obama for deporting twice as many people as he did in 2025. And now today, it's like, oh, you deport half that amount of people. We had an election which turned out to be a mandate for the Trump administration. You get Republicans take the House, the Senate, and the White House. And the sort of biggest issue leading into that election was the immigration, the border crisis. And that's what people voted for. And then you just have this sort of radical leftist reaction to it, and the propaganda around it is insane. And that's what like I actually made the video, wound up doing it last night, like last minute, because I saw Larry Krasner, who's the DA here in Philly, and he's a fucking scumbag, and he has destroyed the city. He's like one of those catch and release DAs. There was a woman, Jada, I forget her last name, but she was murdered not too far from where I live at the end of the summer, and she was murdered by a guy who was released by Larry Krasner's office earlier in the year after strangling and physically assaulting a woman. Like he should have been in jail. Let him out, and then he murdered somebody like 6 months later. And he's giving this press conference like, we will have rule of law in Philadelphia. I will arrest ICE agents. Like, you fucking hypocrite. Like, you don't care about rule of law in Philadelphia until it infringes on your radical sort of open border Soros policy that that got you into office, because Soros backed his campaign heavily, put way more money than any of his competition in the DA's race here in Philly. And it's just like we're being bamboozled. Like this, the whole propaganda, the emotional, the playing to emotions is so obvious to me, and it's again very similar to what was happening in 2020. And I made the video. I was like, hey, I got a lot of shit when I was writing newsletters and recording podcasts about this in 2020, telling people like you're being manipulated. Mass psychosis has taken over the country. And I got a lot of shit at the time, but it was proven to be right ultimately. And that's what I said last night. I was like, hey, it's happening again. You're all being manipulated. This is all bullshit. Like they're making a scene to force you into a certain frame, and make you make decisions out of fear and anger. And it's not going to end well if you succumb to the propaganda. Again, like there's ISIS in dozens of other cities throughout the country, and they're doing their job perfectly fine. But for some reason, Minneapolis, the minute the Medicaid fraud is unearthed, you have people rushing there to defend these Somali immigrant community.
Well, and the timing of all that too, when the video came out, and then all of a sudden now ICE in Minneapolis. Like I don't think these things happen by accident, but also, people, they talk of civil war. I mean, as far as we're already in it though. I mean, these are examples of what we are in a civil war. It's just not the north-south, ready, aim, fire, reload.
No.
And it wouldn't be like that anyway. But the fact that you have state and county, defying federal, that's a civil war.
Yeah, that's true. And it's a great shame. These people are scumbags. And that's the thing. They're protecting their own. I mean, Tim Walz, if you can't see the signals, like he dropped out of the governor race. He announced last night that he's never going to run for political office again. And you have this call to arms from Tim Walz and the Mayor Frey guy, that douche. Just because they know, like, if people actually like do look into what happened and who was associated and who was enabling the fraud, they're going to find that Governor Walz, the mayor of Minneapolis, AG Keith Ellison, definitely had a hand in it. And so they're trying to prevent people from looking into that by just forcing conflict, by literally calling people to, not to like physical arms. I don't think that's happened yet, but I actually think Krasner did say something along those lines, but I don't think Tim Walz has, but like calling people to the streets to physically prohibit ICE from doing their jobs.
And that may or may not happen, but you also have people that are saying like it's inevitable. The elections are going to be canceled. They're going to like
this was happening in 2020, too,
right? No, I know. That's why I think it's so funny. Like,
no, it was both 2020, 2024. Because I remember after the assassination attempt, people were like, "Oh wow, what's going on?" And then you had the switch out of Kamala. When 2020 with COVID going on, it was a big theme too.
But then you also had the 5D chess in 2020, if you remember. Like Trump was going to stay in office, and the military was going to come in, and they were going to.
Brother, Patriots are in control. I'm not sure if you've seen what's happening in Fulton County, Georgia, right now. Yeah, it is. It would be I'm interested to see what comes of the Fulton County stuff.
Yeah, I gave up on all that, man. I mean, this is where I come back to the whole superhero conversation, because I'm hearing it again. I'm hearing that's the other thing I'm hearing. Sorry,
everybody's all jacked up about it. But I'm like, it's been 6 years. How do you think they didn't get rid of the evidence over the course of 6 years? It's like they would be incredibly stupid if they didn't. And I find it hard to believe that if there was evidence, they didn't get rid of it over the course of 6 years. Maybe they are that stupid, though.
I mean, this 5D chess or whatever, like, that's we're coming right back around to that again this time.
Patriots are in control, sir.
You gotta clip that, man. Put that out there. Marty, where can people hold on, I can't even say it.
I know what you're gonna say. You can find me at Marty Ben on X. I got more jokes like that. I'm actually a stand-up comedian, not a podcaster, a Bitcoin investor.
What your show, and where can people find your show?
TFTC, Truth for the Commoner. search TFTC in your favorite podcasting app. We appreciate if you use a podcasting 2.0 app like Fountain and contribute to the show in a value for value fashion by streaming us Bitcoin while you listen. It has an embedded Bitcoin wallet, so you can contribute using apps like Fountain.
And your next episode is coming out when?
Saturday. So today is the 29th. On the 31st, I sat down with Matthew Mazinksius, actually building on the gold and silver. Matthew is a dear friend, and we actually disagree on a lot of things politically. We agree on Bitcoin. He actually lives in Riga, Latvia. He's an American Latvian, grew up in America, moved back to Latvia, lives there now. So he's in the Baltics, very familiar with what's going on in Ukraine, and we have differing opinions on what's actually happening there. And so we had that part of the conversation. But the meat of the conversation, we've been doing a monetary base update for the last 7 years, 8 years almost. So he does a quarterly monetary base update where he's like a data freak. He gets all the central bank data and basically shows the growth of the global monetary base over time. Then has a theory that Bitcoin is following this power curve trend adoption, which happens with networks like the internet. And so we go over the price and the power curve trend. And then we did a lot of Bitcoin gold, Bitcoin silver comparisons. Bitcoin silver ratio on the power trend is at its lowest point ever. It's literally at the 0 percentile. And so he was making the case that he thinks gold and silver are near top, at least in Bitcoin terms, and gravity is going to come into play. And Bitcoin price relatively in silver specifically, but also gold is very cheap right now. So if you want to get that perspective, look out for that episode.
Anybody out there that you haven't spoken to yet that you would love to? Like, who's at the top of your list?
Top of my list. I mean, I would love to talk to Palmer Luckey, actually. I know Andrel and that whole Teal mafia is very vitriolic, but despite that, like, he's incredibly impressive to me. And I think we're around the same age. And like I mentioned him earlier, but like, I think I'm not a big fan of the military-industrial complex. But again, we are in this age of asymmetric warfare. And if you want to defend yourself, you need to equip yourself. And I think what he's doing at Andrel is fascinating. And just like he's an early Bitcoiner too. He's somebody I'd love to talk to.
Marty, I always enjoy our conversations, man. Appreciate it. And until the next one.
Michael, thank you.
Mic drop.